Welcome back to 90 Seconds Plus. It's been a wee break. I needed a bit of time out, and we're back with Deputy Mayor Tom Campbell. Hey Tom. Let's kick off with the rates, because it's where we've landed and where you think it was going to end in the next year or two.
So we ended up just over 7%.
Yep.
And if you look back at the interview that we did in January, what I said then was that I thought that a reasonable target for staff would be to bring rates down by 7% relative to the start point, right? Yep. 7% is about $5 million. So again, if you look back at that video, I said I thought $5 million target for the Chief Executive to bring it down. So at that time, we were told that it might be 10 overall. So 7% for that is 3. Yep. But actually, when they crunched the number, it was 14 was the start point, right? Yep. So 7% back for that is 7%. So actually, we have saved that $5 million. I think staff have done a good job in identifying ways of doing that. And if we had cut any further, so for example, we put money back into the stadium after suggesting that we might not. We put money back into Great South. Like what we found was that when we went to consultation and when we looked at the impact of these provisional decisions, we were really cutting muscle. We were cutting any muscle. So I think, reducing by 7% was probably, in my mind, was the target I had in mind back in January. And I think staff have done a good job to get to that point. Now, that doesn't mean that whole exercise around efficiency is finished. We've got to keep going with that. And next year, hopefully, we'll see an even bigger impact from that. But I think 7.1. So New Zealand looks as though New Zealand as a whole, local authorities are going to average about 10% increases. The Minister has set them a target of being less than 10, but it looks like it's going to be 10. We'll be a 7, So I don't think that we've done too bad. And of course, it's far more than people would want. But, that's the reality of the situation that we're in.
But again, when you see just the cost savings just by closing that toilet and chairs in Wapner Place, there's got to be more wastage. Why hasn't been highlighted by the previous financial person in that role then? And it's coming out of the blue now. I mean, there must be more waste deep down,
Well, I mean, of course that's true. I mean, it's an ongoing thing. But if you look at the last 3 years, in 2023, we had a 6% rates increase. The average for New Zealand was 9%. 2024, we had a 9% increase. The average for New Zealand was 14%. If you look at this year, 7%, the average for New Zealand is going to be 10%. Now, we'd like it to be lower, but we've actually done, I think, a pretty good job. Now, against the background of concern that people are expressing that, we're involved in the museum, in Invercargill Central, and the streetscape in Wapner Place and so forth. And people argue that we should cut those out and just stick to the knitting, just stick to infrastructure. Well, maybe we can talk about that in a minute. But the reality is that we've done all those things. We are doing those things, but we're still well below the New Zealand average. So for people who say, look, you've got to improve efficiency, well, we are. And sure, there's more to come. Absolutely, there's more to come. But we've managed to do that stuff, build a museum and so forth. We've managed to do that. We're still better than where New Zealand as a whole is, significantly better.
So where do you think rates will head next year? Because some people argue by slashing and burning rates, trying to keep them down this year, it then makes it means we're going to get hit hard with a huge rate increase next year. But other people counter that as no, that's not right.
Well, people said the same thing in 2023, right? And they said the same thing in 2024.
Okay,
So it does make it harder. But that's a good thing, right? Because it just sets a challenge for us. So I mean, people say to us, look, forget about the froth, as they might call it. Forget about the community and the arts and all those things. Just stick to the knitting, stick to infrastructure. But the reality is that a city's got to be more than just, pipes and pavements. It's got to be. It's got to be about people. It's about community. It's about sports. It's about, arts. It's about heritage. It's about all those things. So we're not going to leave them aside. I mean, one of the decisions that Nobby made early was that, look, we're going to do both. We're not going to stick to one, right? This city, for probably 20 years, between 1990 and 2010, was in decline.
Well, it was well and truly, yeah.
The population was in decline. There was almost like a dead hand in the city where nothing happened.
Last one to leave, turn off the lights, it was.
And we're not going to go back there, right? Yeah. So in my view, Mike, we got to do both. We got to keep rates down, but we got to keep moving forward with all that stuff. Not just the pipes and the pavements, but the people stuff as well. Yeah. And how we fund that? Well, we just cannot keep going to the well, which is becoming dry. The well of the ratepayer. Mm-hmm. We got to do that by improving our internal efficiency, yes, and making sure that the money that's saved is getting spent wisely
and in the right places as well.
And in the right places. So, can you imagine how dull a city would be if you only focused on pavements and pipes?
That's right. Yep.
So if you go back, 10 years or whatever, when that was the situation, I think, in Invercargill, we couldn't attract people here. Couldn't attract businesses here. People would come. If you try to attract somebody to come and work here, somebody would come, or their wife would come. They'd walk around the shops and they would say, "I don't want to live here."
Yep. That happened with a number of senior staff over the last few years at council.
Exactly. So we've turned that around. So now we've got a city. We've got much nicer, Donnan-esque. We've got Invercargill Central. We've got 2 new hotels. Yep. We've got the museum, which will be finished being structurally built by the end of this year. Economically, we see TY with a long-term contract. We see Fonterra, who's into a period of expansion. We see SIT, yes, beginning to get a bit of freedom, and they'll turn that into people coming in. Yep. And we've got aquaculture that's poised to take off. So we've got and we cannot afford to just stop the momentum and just spend money on pipes and pavements. We've got to spend money on other stuff too, and make sure that by internal efficiency improvements, we're able to fund that rather than just going to manpower ratepayer. Yeah. And I think that that we can do that.
Yeah, and the thing is, getting back to the Invercargill Central, that whole block. I mean, that was a once in a century or once in a lifetime that needed to be done, and that's where I agree that council did need to step in. But again, I was 100% behind it only because Scott O'Donnell was driving that project. Because if it was council leading it, it would have been complete disaster. So that's my opinion.
These things were, to some extent, well, to a large extent, actually, all part of the SWORDS strategy, right? Yep. And the SWORDS strategy said, look, unless we fix the city centre, nothing else will happen, that's right? If council had not committed to Invercargill Central and doing up Donnan-esque, then the Langlands would never happen.
I was just going to say that. I don't think
it never happened. The new Distinction Hotel would never have happened, right? No. So all these things build on each other because people see confidence that... So, look, there is no doubt that rates have been higher as a consequence of doing all those stuff because nothing's free. But we're still well below the New Zealand average. And the money that comes back for these things, it's an investment. Money comes back in other ways. Yep. Better paid jobs, more jobs, better paid jobs, more life in the city. Yes. Yep. So I think in balance, I think citizens in Invercargill and ratepayers in particular, even mindful of their purse, I think would want it to continue. Yep. I don't think they'd want us to go back into 1990, entrenchment. Do nothing.
That's right.
Yeah, they don't want that.
No, that's right. So finishing off, Tom, what's the one thing you'd like to see done or do moving forward?
Well, there's one thing we must do, and that's resolve the Briscoes building situation. Yes. I mean, it's unacceptable. It's like an open wound in the middle of the city. So, and there's a lot of work going on in that, and I don't quite know how that'll resolve, but we must resolve it. But I think the other thing, and it actually goes back to SWORDS, the only thing that we have not done that was proposed by SWORDS is an art gallery in the city. It's the only thing we have not done. And although we are definitely not going to be able to build a new building, don't have the money for that, but there are so many empty buildings now, right? Yep. So an art gallery in the city without building a new building, we've got the art already, we've got the building, it's just cost of the lease. I think that would make a big difference to the city. So I think in the coming triennium, apart from the obvious thing, which is you must keep rates down, I'd love to see an art gallery built. I'd love to resolve the Briscoe situation. I would love to see the city looking brighter, more flowers. Yep. Might sound a small thing.
Yes.
right?
Yep.
People comment, you drive through Gore and there's flowers and they say,
Yeah. They even have flare baskets around under their verandas.
More flowers just to make it a little bit more colourful. So I think there are things that we can do that don't cost a lot of money, but make people feel better about living in the city, and that's good to be what it's about. It's going to be about making people feel better about living in Invercargill. And the expression I use, let Invercargill flourish.
Yes, I like that. Yes.
Yeah.
It's about, and again, it's about keep getting pride back in our city. Even just the litter. Litter's always been my pet peeve. I pick up bits for years, every now and then on the street walking around town. I'll go, grab it and put it in. But I think it's about getting pride back into our city, because our city's looking fantastic downtown in the centre city now, and we need to embrace that. And I mean, we've got such a great region, and it's a great city to live in. We're all pretty friendly, easygoing.
Well, Mike, I think it's like when you take a house and you do up the back bedroom and you do this and you do that. And it's great inside, but then you look at it from the outside and you say, gosh, there's a few little things that need chatted up, right? Yep. And I think we are getting towards that stage where Invercargill, if you really look at it, the new museum and all that stuff's great, but it's a bit rough around the edges, and I think we do have to spend a bit of time, spend a bit of money, encourage people to, make the place look a bit brighter and better. Yep. That's about paint and flowers and so forth.
That's 90 Seconds Plus with Deputy Mayor Tom Campbell. Until next time, see you later.